She looked at me and she said, honey, if you want to clean a house, you have to see the dirt. And that really struck me, right? We tend to just, in our quest, in our well-intentioned quest to be positive, we tend to just force these emotions down or away or ignore them. We say, okay, well, I don't want to be negative, so I'm just going to, put them under the rug, right? I'm going to sweep it under the rug, or I'm going to put it behind the couch, and I'm just not going to look at it. This process allows you to look at it in a safe way and let it go and clean the house. And then what you'll find happens is that you're authentically feeling those positive emotions. You don't have to force your way to be happy. You don't have to remind yourself, oh my gosh, I've got to be happy, because it just, your default, your authentic you is that happy, vibrant, successful you.
Namaste. You're listening to the Savannah Podcast. Join us on an exploration of Eastern spirituality, yoga philosophy, and conscious living for the new age. This podcast is a production of SavannahSpirit.com, the best place to shop for unique clothing, spiritual handcrafted jewelry, healing gemstones, and fair trade gifts from the Far East. Now, here's your host, Brett Larkin.
Hello, Savannah family. Welcome back to this week's episode. Thank you so much for listening, being here, and for all the love you give the show. We have a very experiential special episode in store for you today. We are going to learn all about tapping. Tapping is a healing modality that combines ancient Chinese acupressure and modern psychology. Our guest today, Nick Ortner, is actually going to lead us through a tapping session live on the podcast. It's about a third of the way in, so you're going to want to make sure you can experience that with us. So maybe pause if you end up driving or running around today and listen to this when you can really experience it with us. It's about 8 minutes. And then he's also going to explain the history of this practice, the ancient science behind it, and how you can use tapping for everything, from overcoming chronic pain to manifesting your greatest self. Before we get started, I just want to remind you, like I do every week, to leave a rating or review for us here on iTunes. Even if iTunes isn't how you normally listen to the show, it makes a huge difference in getting the show in front of more people. All right, now introducing Nick. He is the CEO of The Tapping Solution, a company with a mission to bring the mainstream, simple, effective healing method known as emotional freedom technique, or tapping, to everyone. He's the New York Times bestselling author of The Tapping Solution, a revolutionary system for stress-free living, and The Tapping Solution for Pain Relief, a step-by-step guide to reducing and eliminating chronic pain. Prior to all of this, Nick created and produced the breakthrough documentary film, The Tapping Solution, which follows 10 people who use tapping to overcome significant challenges, including chronic back pain, fibromyalgia, insomnia, grief, and so much more. Nick, thank you so much for taking the time, being with us, and coming on the show. So my first question for you is, what is tapping? What does EFT stand for?
Yeah, absolutely. So thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here. So tapping, EFT, emotional freedom techniques, the general name of tapping, we call it tapping because we are literally physically tapping on endpoints of meridians. And I know you're listening in and can't see me, but if you could see me now, I'd be taking 2 fingers and tapping on these endpoints of meridians of our body, of our face, and I'll take you through the exact points later on in the show, to sending these calming signals to the meridians to clear the energy in our body. And even more powerfully, what the latest research is showing is that when we do this tapping, we send a calming signal to the amygdala in the brain. So we are calming that fight or flight response. We are telling our body, our mind, our spirit that it is safe, that it can relax. And that's the basic mechanism of this tapping process.
And you mentioned that word meridians. So I'm curious for you to tell us more about that. Is that sort of working with the Chinese system? Or I know a lot of our listeners are familiar with like the chakras in yoga, and there's main meridians, and then I know there's millions of them, right? Mini ones. Can you walk us through that?
Yeah, absolutely. And I am in no way the expert on this particular topic, right? What I loved about tapping when I found it, what we're doing is we're tapping on these main endpoints of meridians. We're doing the same sequence every time to hit these major meridians. Now, there are distinctions and there are people who tap on different points and do different things. All really interesting, powerful stuff. The challenge that I found, and the challenge that the originators of EFT and previous process found, is that it can get so complicated that people then go, okay, what meridian do I hit here? That's why when we do the tapping process, we go through all these main endpoints It may be that sometimes we're tapping on one main endpoint of a meridian for a particular issue, and it's actually not doing anything. But at this current time, we don't know, right? So we don't know if block in your liver that you have for anger or whatever's going on is located under the eye, and that meridian would activate it. That's why we hit all the points. And then to sort of confuse the topic even more, as I mentioned, that we're finding research about the amygdala being calmed down. So it's like we've got brain and the amygdala, and we've got the meridians, and then you mentioned the chakras. I think it activates all these elements. I do feel that at some point in the future, we'll have more data and be able to find these things more scientifically and prove the results. What I'm most excited about tapping is that people can have an experience in 5 or 10 minutes and know that they just created a shift in their body. So they don't have to believe in meridians. I know this audience is well open to that, and Eastern spirituality and yoga and all these important topics, but you could give me somebody from the middle of America who has never heard of this stuff, and I can do the tapping with them and help them move through challenges in their life, in their body, in their world. And to me, that's what's most exciting, that this is such an accessible tool for everyone.
Yeah, it seems like maybe the ultimate wellness hack, for those of us who are doing like 90 minutes of yoga on our mat. When we can't do that, we could do this instead. So I definitely want you to teach us all about that. Before we do that, though, I want to come back to this word you've been using, endpoints, to make sure we're all clear on what you mean by that. So you're saying we're tapping on an endpoint. So is that like if I'm tapping my forehead, like I'm taking 2 fingers and tapping this like third eye, 6th chakra area between my eyebrows, for example, you're calling that an endpoint? Is that because it's where the meridian sort of opens on my skin? Or?
Yeah, exactly. It's sort of where we have access to the meridian, and send that signal. We are in fact sending an electrical signal with that tapping process. I'll describe them quickly just so people get a better picture of what we're doing through the process, so they're not confused for the rest of the show. And then how about we do that? We do a quick description, people can have a little experience, and then we can sort of break down what it was that was happening.
I love it. Let's do it.
Okay. So a couple simple steps to start the process. The first thing is, what are you tapping on, right? What is the thing that you want to shift right now? If you're anxious about something, and here's the thing that's so amazing about tapping too with this community. There's so many of us who, if you're listening to this podcast, you already know that you A, are in control of your emotions, and B, want to move through them and out of them, right? If you're anxious, that's why you spend 90 minutes on the mat, besides the physical benefits, is to calm the mind and open up the body. But if you're anxious in this moment and you can't go on the mat, if you're angry about something and you're saying to yourself, I really know that I've got to let go, right? How many of us have said, I know to let go of this issue, but I can't seem to. If you're stressed out about an upcoming deadline or something that's going on in your life, if you have physical pain in your body that just feels stuck, chronic pain. So we pick the thing first. And everyone listening, we can do it right now. So just pick something. It doesn't have to be an enormous issue, but a stressor in your life. And the more specific you can be about it, the better. So we don't want to say we're stressed out about our whole lives, though if you do the tapping and just focus on that stress, you will feel better afterwards. We want to try to get specific and distinct so we can really analyze that issue and move through it. So pick an issue right now, and then as you think about it, give it a number of intensity on a scale of 0 to 10. So if you're anxious at a level 7, 8, 9, 10, angry, overwhelmed, whatever emotion, whatever pain you're feeling, just focus on one thing now. So we have our target and we have our number, and then we'll start tapping. I'm going to use general language. I'll describe the points to you. Don't worry about getting it perfect the first time. And the first time you'll be trying to piece things together. We'll do a couple rounds. You'll get the hang of it. All right, so we're going to start by tapping on what we call the karate chop point. It's on the side of the hand below the pinky. So you want to take 4 fingers of one hand, and you're literally, as if you were sort of drumming your fingers on a table, you're just physically tapping, activating that endpoint of meridian on the side of the hand, whatever hand feels comfortable to you. And as you do that, and as you think about that anxiety or that stress or that overwhelm, I'm going to use general language and just repeat after me. And Brett, will you be my echo as we tap along together?
I will, and I'm just tapping the pinky side of my palm, right?
Exactly.
Okay.
Right below the pinky, that meaty part of your hand. And focusing on that issue, and just say out loud or in your head if you're at work and you don't want anyone to think you're going crazy over there, just repeat after me. Even though I'm holding on to all the stress in my body.
Even though I'm holding on to all the stress in my body.
I choose to relax and feel safe now.
I choose to relax and feel safe now.
We're going to do that 2 more times, still tapping on that side of the hand. Even though I'm holding on so tight.
even though I'm holding on so tight.
And I can't seem to let this go.
And I can't seem to let this go.
I choose to relax and feel safe now.
I choose to relax and feel safe now.
And one more time, even though I can't let go of this issue.
Even though I can't let go of this issue.
It feels so stuck.
It feels so stuck.
I love, accept, and forgive myself.
I love, accept, and forgive myself.
Now we're going to tap through the points. The first point is the eyebrow point. It's on the inside of the eyebrow, right where the hair ends and it meets the nose. And you can take 2 fingers of one hand. You're just tapping gently. You can do both hands. The meridians run down both sides of the body, so whatever's comfortable for you. And you're not counting. You're just tapping repeatedly on that point, focusing on that initial issue. So I want you to, just as you tap, think about that stressor. If you're anxious about something, think about it now. Bring it up. We are trying to activate these thoughts, not to anchor them in, not to grow them, not to visualize the negative. We're doing it to clear them. And do that now. And now we move to the side of the eye. It's not at the temple. It's right next to the eye on the bone. Again, one side or both sides, tapping gently, thinking about that issue. Just bring it to mind. If you see movies and pictures about what happened or what you have upcoming, allow those to come forward. And now we move to under the eye. Focusing on that issue, that anxiety, that sadness. If you have physical pain in your body, you just want to feel into it now. And just being present with these emotions. Being present with the truth of how you feel in this moment. Now under the nose, tapping with 2 fingers. And just allow that stream of thoughts and consciousness and feeling to come up. Whatever it is, you might have started thinking about some anxious issue and now you're angry about something. Or you're thinking about something else altogether that might be related. Just allow it to be. And under the mouth, above the chin, below the lip, and that little crease in there with 2 fingers. Again, see that movie again. Feel the pain in your body or the emotion. Be present to these thoughts. And now for the collarbone point, feel for the 2 little bones of the collarbone. And you go down an inch, out to each side about an inch. You can tap with all 10 fingers of both hands. Being present to these feelings in your body, whatever they may be. Focusing and seeing that movie, that picture, feeling into your body. And now underneath the arm, 3 inches underneath the armpit, right on the bra line for women, either side of the body, being present to these feelings. Just notice them in your body now. And the last point of around, right at the top of the head, on the crown, tapping like a monkey and being present to these thoughts, these feelings, these images. Now you know the points. We'll do a couple more rounds. We'll go back to the eyebrow and just say out loud, I wonder what this is all about.
I wonder what this is all about.
Side of the eye, and I wonder if I can let it go.
And I wonder if I can let it go.
Under the eye, part of me has been holding on.
Part of me has been holding on.
Under the nose, and I'm not sure why.
And I'm not sure why.
Under the mouth, but I choose to let this go now.
But I choose to let this go now.
Collarbone, to allow my body to heal.
To allow my body to heal.
Under the arm, to allow for this stress to dissipate.
To allow for this stress to dissipate.
Top of the head, from every cell in my body.
From every cell in my body.
Eyebrow, it's safe to relax and let go.
It's safe to relax and let go.
Side of the eye, it's safe to relax and let go.
It's safe to relax and let go.
Under the eye, from every cell in my body.
From every cell in my body.
Under the nose, to feel strong and confident.
To feel strong and confident.
Under the mouth, to feel safe and relaxed.
To feel safe and relaxed.
Collarbone, in every cell of my body.
In every cell of my body.
Under the arm, right now.
Right now.
Top of the head, right now.
Right now.
Deep breath in. And let it go. So that was a couple of rounds. And again, we're going general here and you're learning the process. But what we do after that is we check in. So we go back to that original issue and think about that number. So if there was pain in your body, you can check in. It was an 8. Where is it now? If you were anxious about something, try to connect with those anxious thoughts again and see how strong are they. If they went from an 8 to a 5 in just a few minutes, that's great. That's just showing that you have the ability to move through these things, to let them go from your body, from your mind, from your spirit.
Today, I'm asking our listeners out there, do you meditate? Whether you're an avid meditator or just looking to get started, visit savannahspirit.com. They have everything you need to enhance your meditation practice. From mala beads to singing bowls to statues and incense, you can make your at-home meditation space truly sacred. Use the discount code PODCAST30 for 30% off your first order today. It was interesting. I definitely feel more relaxed.
Well, that's a guaranteed thing that no matter what you're working on, and if you're worried about doing it right or wrong or anything, you are going to feel more relaxed after doing that.
I think one of the things that was challenging for me, and maybe it's just coming from like the yoga perspective, was like putting that specific number, on like the intensity. But I like how you encourage people to do that because it really maybe helps them see a shift from when they started to when they finish.
Well, you know why you have to put that number, Brett, is because if you don't do it, the shifts are often so dramatic that people, like I've worked with people who said, oh my gosh, I'm so angry at my mom, and I forget to put a number on it, and then we do all this tapping, and they say, I wasn't ever really angry about it. And it's like, no, you were. You just were 5 minutes ago. But, when we move through these things in our lives, when we let go, we just move on to the next thing. So it's often, we don't remember that we made that shift. We don't remember how we were feeling before. Doing that number at least gives you an opportunity to have a win and say, you know what, it was an 8 of anxiety and now it's a 5 and I can keep moving through it. Because that's the other thing too. If we don't notice, an 8 and a 5 can feel similar. We want to have that early win so we can keep going with it.
And I'm imagining as you worked with different clients or people in different situations, you'd change up maybe the points, but also the script and the things that you were saying that we were repeating and saying to ourselves based on someone's specific situation?
100%. And, if I'm working one-on-one with someone, we are digging into what are the issues, what's going on, going through the process, feedback on how it's happening and what else is coming up. In this environment, we have to be very general. And, but yeah, that's the real magic and the depth of the tapping. And that's when it becomes most transformative, when people can clean up stuff from their past in a big way.
I'm curious if you'll share with us how you came to this practice and if you were meditating or doing yoga or kind of where were you on your own like spiritual journey before you found this work and what kind of triggered your interest in it?
Yeah, great question. Yeah, I certainly was, and I certainly still am. People always say, well, is it tapping or meditation? And no, they're really the perfect complement to each other. What I've found time and again is that if you do 5 minutes of tapping before meditation, you quiet that monkey mind so much more quickly. And now you have a profound, deep meditation as opposed to saying, oh my gosh, 30 minutes and I just could not stop thinking about this thing I was anxious about, So that combo is really powerful. And I've even done some workshops. I did one a couple years ago with Elena Brower, who's a yoga teacher, and we did tapping before the yoga to just sort of relax the body, quiet the mind, and then she did the yoga class. So, some nice combos there. But for me personally, it was over a decade ago now, I would say 12, 13 years, around 2004, I discovered tapping. It's not something I invented. It's a process that's been around for over 30 years. And I found it online just as a seeker and looking for things to make my life better. I dismissed it the first couple times because it seemed weird. It's like, why are we tapping on endpoints of meridians and hitting ourselves? It just didn't make that much sense from the first surface look at it. But I just kept reading one incredible story after another, and just people having massive life transformations, overcoming 30 years of chronic back pain, getting over things that they had just been stuck with for so long. And, you see something enough times, you say, all right, I'm going to give this a shot. And I did. I remember one of my first experiences was actually on physical pain in my body. I had woken up with a crick in my neck and kind of thing where you stretch it out all day, it doesn't seem to go away, and it takes a couple days to feel better. I knew, and I'd read the tapping worked on pain relief, so I tried it. Sure enough, it just completely released that pain in my neck. From that point, I became so excited about it personally that I shared it with friends and family. The running joke at the time was, don't say anything is wrong around Nick because he will make you tap on it. I was just so excited by all the things that it worked on. From that excitement built into making a documentary film about tapping, and then multiple books and everything that has come since then. So for me, I've really just been, an insanely passionate person about this topic, and trying to bring it out to the world because I know how much it helps people heal.
Tell us more about the history of the technique, because on the one hand, we're talking about meridians, which are thousands and thousands of years old. But then you said the technique itself has been around for about 30 years. So how did the actual technique get founded, and how did it start, and how does it relate back to some of the more ancient science that we might be familiar with?
Yeah, such a great question. In around 1980, a gentleman by the name of Roger Callahan, who was a traditionally trained psychologist, he was working with a client whose name was Mary, and she had a severe water phobia. And by severe water phobia, I mean she got freaked out drinking water, right? Drinking water, showers, everything, just an out-of-control phobia that, as you can imagine, was ruining her life. Water is everywhere. So she had been working with Roger Callahan for about a year and a half, and he was a traditionally trained therapist. So he did the things that he knew how to do. He did exposure therapy. Hey, let's look at the pool and talk about it. And let's talk about your childhood and where this might have happened and how this might have started, and all the traditional stuff. And it wasn't working. And certainly he was frustrated as a psychologist, wanting to help people, wanting to bring them healing. Mary was frustrated as a client. She would go and leave with awful migraine headaches from just having to talk about the water all the time and stress out about it, focus on it. And one particular day, they were sitting by his pool at his home office, looking at the water, doing what would be traditional exposure therapy. Mary said, when I look at the water, I get this queasy feeling in my stomach, just butterflies in my stomach. And as synchronicity or, divine guidance and wisdom works, who knows what it was that was happening. Dr. Callan had been reading about the meridian system in the body and had read that the stomach meridian ends underneath the eye. So that's one of the major endpoints of the stomach meridian. So on a whim, on an inspiration, he said to Mary, hey, try tapping underneath the eye. So she tapped underneath the eye, stimulating that meridian for 30 seconds, a minute, and her phobia, the butterflies in her stomach, went away. And most importantly, her phobia vanished. Just like that, a lifelong trauma, a lifelong challenge that nothing was fixing was gone. So you can imagine Dr. Callahan's excitement, Mary's excitement. From there, he proceeded to further study the meridians and create this combination, right, of modern psychology, of thinking about things and bringing them up in our mind, and of doing the tapping process with it. His process is called TFT, thought field therapy. It's still around. And what he did is he had different sequences for different challenges. So if you're angry, you would do a certain set of points. And if you're anxious, another set of points. One of his students by the name of Gary Craig took that process and said, hey, this is a little complicated. We can never remember what to do, when, where, how. Make it simple. Let's hit all the major endpoints at the same time. And, that's the basis for what I have learned and shared with the world, is this EFT process of doing the main meridians every single time.
It's sort of like your sun salute, like your basic warm-up that's going to hit everything.
Such a good comparison, right? Like if you need a go-to, it's like make that happen every time. And the simplicity of that makes it so you can go deeper every time, makes it so that, the thousandth time that you do a sun salute is even more powerful than all the previous ones.
Would it be incorrect to think about this as sort of like doing acupuncture or acupressure on yourself?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, I say this is like acupuncture without the needles. I love acupuncture. I go to it all the time. You need a practitioner. And when you're having trouble sleeping, or you're in the middle of your workday and you're anxious about something, or just overwhelmed, this is a tool that's available. And I think that's one of the best parts about it, right? That where do we find places in our lives where we can take control back, and where we can do it on a consistent basis, so we don't have to go desperately to the acupuncturist or desperately to the yoga class when we burned ourselves out. Can we keep ourselves in balance through our daily lives, and then go to that yoga mat with more presence, and then go to the acupuncture and go even deeper and not suffer the rest of the way?
Yeah, no, it's great to be able to treat yourself. And I think my next question is like the tapping feels very there's a rhythm to it, like it's rhythmic, right? So I'm curious about that because like when I get acupuncture done, it's obviously a needle and there's that, interesting sensation when the needle comes into the skin. And with acupressure, someone's obviously pressing very hard into a specific point and it's a little more massage-like. But with the tapping we did, it's just, there's something interesting about the sensation of tapping. It's completely unique and it's this rhythmic thing. Is there more to be said there about tapping compared to pressing, compared to needling,
No, it's such a good question. I think there is. And I think, you hit it on the head by saying it is a different sensation. And, I can just tap on my collarbone point and my body instantly relaxes. And that's the other thing that happens too. When you do the process more often, you're conditioning yourself, right? You're saying, okay, I'm taking this time to look at this and feel these emotions, allow them to be, and I'm consciously choosing to let them go. People ask all the time too, is it the tapping or is it the words you're saying or is it this? I think the magic is in the combination that we're doing all these things. You saw in the start of the process that we focus on the negative thing, that anxiety, that overwhelm, and people get hung up on that, especially within this community, where they say, wait, why are we being negative here, right? Like, aren't we trying to be positive? And as my dear departed friend, Louise Hay, that many people know, the founder of Hay House, author of You Can Heal Your Life, we were talking about tapping. We were doing it together on an interview. And I said, Louise, you're the queen of affirmations and you're saying all these quote unquote negative things. And she looked at me very sweetly and she said something that I think about every single day. And I think whether you do the tapping or not is an important part of our lives as we move to be positive. She looked at me and she said, honey, if you want to clean a house, you have to see the dirt. And that really struck me, right? We tend to just, in our quest, in our well-intentioned quest to be positive, we tend to just force these emotions down or away or ignore them. We say, okay, well, I don't want to be negative, so I'm just going to, put them under the rug, right? I'm going to sweep it under the rug, or I'm going to put it behind the couch, and I'm just not going to look at it. This process allows you to look at it in a safe way and let it go and clean the house. And then what you'll find happens is that you're authentically feeling those positive emotions. You don't have to force your way to be happy. You don't have to remind yourself, oh my gosh, I've got to be happy, because it just, your default, your authentic you is that happy, vibrant, successful you.
And I can't remember the exact script you walked us through when we did this work, but you were saying things, especially like midway through, like, I feel safe, I'm willing to let this shift, let this go. Or am I remembering incorrectly? Because I was kind of getting into it, so I don't remember exactly.
Yeah, so in the tapping process, we generally start with the negative or the truth and focusing on that, and then we try to turn that into the positive. Now, people always ask, again, that was a quick demonstration, when do I move to the positive? And what we're trying to do is we're trying to bring down that negative energy, that negative charge enough that when we say the positive, it feels somewhat true, right? So I'm sure we've all had the experience of like trying an affirmation or trying to think a positive thought, and then the other part of you says, that's total BS, right? Like you just don't even buy it. Like you don't buy your own BS. You say, oh, okay, I'm trying to be positive, but it's not happening. So instead of forcing it, we focus on that negative, that truth. We bring down the intensity, and then we start affirming these positive things, and they actually feel it. Like they feel like they have their own energy to them. They grow, they get stronger, and then they're more powerful.
No, I think that's such a great point, because I feel like that's a question I get asked in even just my community all the time, which is like, what do I do if saying a certain affirmation feels fake or feels inauthentic?
Yeah, exactly. You acknowledge that fact, right? You tap on that resistance. And here's the interesting thing. When you say an affirmation and it feels inauthentic, and if you ask yourself, why does it feel inauthentic, you're going to get answers, right? So you're going to say, well, you're going to get reminders of the times that you failed, quote unquote, at trying this. And that's going to be, running your program that says, oh, well, this is going to happen again. To me, the way we change our lives is not by powering through and using this willpower to change. We do it by authentically looking at what's happened to us in the past, the events, the experiences, the emotions that have shaped our brain, that have shaped our body, that have shaped our life experience, remolding those, recreating, taking the charge out, whatever it takes to then lay the groundwork for that new start, right? So it's like, again, I know it's like so simple, but we're seeing the dirt and now we're cleaning the house, and it's with that clean house you can move forward.
If you love crystals as much as I do, check out savannahspirit.com. They have a range of gorgeous raw crystals, as well as rolled gemstones, pyramids, and crystal jewelry. The best part, you can use the discount code podcast30 for 30% off your first order today. So we're doing the tapping. There's verbal work, whether we're saying it out loud or internally, that goes with it. And then one thing I found interesting, just coming, from the yoga perspective, is that there wasn't any instruction about how to breathe, right? While we're just doing the tapping. Of course, at the end, you said take a nice deep breath. How does that work? Is the breath just, and they don't tell me how to breathe in acupuncture or acupressure either, but is the idea that we're just focusing on stimulating the meridian points? For example, I don't know how familiar you are with Kundalini yoga, but Kundalini yoga, I feel like, is similar because you hold your arms up or you do kind of crazy movements sometimes, but it's to kind of get access to stimulate those same meridian points. But instead of holding my arms up for 40 minutes, I'm I could just tap under that bra line point that you told me and save a ton of time, but I'm not doing the breath work. So I don't know. Can you just talk us through some of these ideas?
Yeah, no. And it's funny you mentioned Kundalini yoga. I opened up a Kundalini yoga studio with an ex-girlfriend, probably in 2003, long time ago. So I've done a lot of it and I love it. And, I think that certainly anything, and this is the thing, you can play with this, right? You can absolutely try and do breath of fire with this tapping and see what it brings up for you. You might find that when you're tapping on anxiety, you want to do breath of fire and the anxiety, and you get through it that much quicker. You might find that you do the 5 minutes of tapping and then meditate. And like I said earlier, you go that much deeper. So this is a forgiving practice, and it's open to innovation. It's open to combining these disciplines. It's open to saying, I'd love to see yoga teachers do 5 minutes of tapping at the start. That way we can acknowledge to ourselves, hey, we just came off of a busy workday where there's all these things happening and your mind is running around. Instead of waiting 25 minutes for that mind to slow down, let's take a couple minutes, think about your day, tap on the stresses, let them go, now be present in your body.
No, I love that. And I love the idea of doing it before meditation. I think that would be a really great combo. So as we shift into, having to let you go, I'm wondering what tips and advice you can give to people who want to explore this further. So obviously there's the, what I'm calling the sun salute, the basic loop. Tell me the correct name for it, the basic points. What do you call it?
Just like a round.
The round.
Yeah, exactly.
Which is similar to what you walked us through, right?
Yeah. That's the most basic experience. And again, me using very general language, not focusing on your thing. The easiest, lowest barrier to entry way is our website, thetappingsolution.com. That's just THETAPPING solution.com. I've got a new book that just came out a few weeks ago called The Tapping Solution for Manifesting Your Greatest Self. That's a 21-day process where I take you step by step on how to release self-doubt, cultivate inner peace, and create a life that you love. And that's another easy way to get started in the process.
That definitely sounds appealing. And for people who are thinking, I have pain in my traps right now, or, I have a particular either bodily issue or something very specific I want to focus on. Is there a way that they can kind of Google or look up exactly what points and things they should be saying to themselves? Because I know a lot of times with things like this, Google fails us. So if you have whether it's your website or good resources or books to point people in the direction of.
Yeah, I think if you go to our website, if you talk about pain, I wrote a whole book a couple years ago on tapping for pain relief, just because the results that I saw with pain relief are extraordinary. They continue to blow my mind. If you are suffering from physical pain, you just have to explore this, whether you do it with my work or anybody else's work. It is astounding how this helps relieve pain in the body. I've seen the craziest things, 30 years of chronic back pain gone in 2 days, fractured L1 and L2 vertebrae where a doctor said that you're going to be in pain the rest of your life, pain-free. So time and again, I've seen incredible results for pain relief. And I think the tappingsolution.com is the best place to, you can do the search box for your individual issue and you can see the main things that we cover. We have tapping for kids and we have a kids book and a weight loss book and a finance program. All these things, and people go, wait, how do you do tapping with all these things? It's we're just getting to that stress response, right? We're just rewriting that wiring in the brain that's keeping us stuck, that's keeping us running the same patterns. And we're creating those new patterns for ourselves.
And last question for those of us that may be a little nervous or like doing this maybe in public or like we want to get more into it and share it with people. I feel like there's a self-conscious element that comes into play here. Like, for example, I even have a good friend who's hypnotherapist and really into tapping, and he'll come over to our house and sometimes I just kind of like catch him like tapping on himself in the corner. But I'm sure there's like some element of like self-consciousness that maybe people have to come and overcome a little bit. What advice do you have for people who are like curious but a little self-conscious?
Well, look, we don't have to do this in public, right? So, I mean, that's the easiest advice because I totally understand that self-consciousness. The one place where I have seen people tapping publicly is on airplanes because people don't care at that point. If they're scared of flying, they're like, I don't care what people think of me. I'm tapping to calm my body. You can do it in the bathroom. You can do it in those private places. The other challenge, too, which I recognize, is someone sees you tapping and they'll be like, oh, what's wrong?
Right.
That sort of signifies that, you're doing it to clear something. So people don't always like that. And I totally get it. That's why if you do it, it's sort of like we don't walk around and just stop and meditate in the middle of the day, like in the grocery store. Usually there's a little bit of space and privacy to do that. If you find yourself in a situation, you're like, I am panicked and freaked out here. If you tap on the side of the hand, if you tap on the collarbone, if you just do some individual points without, moving quickly through all the points, you'll get some relief and no one will notice. People will either think you're fidgeting or truly will not even notice because they're too deep into their own world and their own anxieties and their own challenges.
And what does your personal tapping practice or spiritual practice look like these days? Are you just doing like 5 minutes of tapping and meditating? Or are you doing like 90 minutes of this work? Like, what's your average day look like?
Great question. When I first started, I did a lot more tapping. I said, you know what, I'm going to clear out these things from the past, the things that are holding me back. And I went deep there. Now, I truly feel that it's just changed my experience of life, and I do it when I'm stressed and overwhelmed. I'll do it before meditation, to try to find that balance, and I'll do it if specific challenges come up. I also have the good fortune of doing the tapping on Facebook Lives and running courses and different things. So just as I'm taking other people through it, I'm having that experience. So that's sort of a bonus. It's like the bonus of being the meditation teacher. You get to do a lot of meditation, so I get to do a lot of tapping through the process, just like you get to do a lot of yoga through your process.
Right. And for people who are curious about that 21-day program, is that something, how long are people tapping for when they move through something like that? Is it like 10 minutes a day or an hour?
No, it's more like 10 minutes a day. And I specifically wrote this book to make it doable. The 21 days they're short chapters, they're entertaining chapters. The tapping is specific. There's a purpose. You don't have to do it in 21 days. Some people are doing it in 42 days, and some people are doing it in 63 days because they're just choosing to do it at their pace. We have a Facebook group right now with over 4,000 people who are reading the book together. And it's one of the most exciting things to be able to see people's experiences and progress, and then also see that people are doing it at their own pace and forgiving themselves when they miss a day. It's like, I didn't want to just be another thing on the to-do list or another failure. Oh, there's another self-help book that I bought and I didn't read, right? We have enough of those lying around. So this book is specifically designed to get you through it and to get your results. So you can do 3 days and go, you know what, that was worth my time because I feel a lot better right now than I did 3 days ago.
Perfect. Well, I always like to ask people at the end where everyone can find them and stay connected with them online. But I think you've sort of answered that for us. It's thetapping-solution.com. We're going to put that link right below the podcast, wherever you're listening, so you can make sure to find it and connect with Nick. Nick, thanks so much for joining us. And yeah, tell us, anywhere else?
Yeah, just at Nick Ortner on Instagram, which is mostly pictures of my daughter June, but people, those seem to be fan favorites. And those are the ones I like to share. And then on Facebook, just N Ortner. And I do a lot of Facebook Lives there, so you might enjoy those.
Perfect. Well, Nick, thank you so much for coming on the show. Listeners, let me know. I know so many of us, myself included, have been curious about EFT and learning more. It's so cool that we actually got to experience a tapping session together on the show. So I'm really looking forward to your feedback and your thoughts. Remember, letting me know via a review here on iTunes means the world to me. You can just leave a review. Even if iTunes isn't how you normally listen to the show, it really makes a difference and helps get the show in front of more listeners looking to transform their life through yoga and meditation. Thank you so much for being with me and listening all the way to the very end. I'm wishing you a beautiful day, and maybe you'll try some tapping later today too. So much love from my heart to yours. Namaste.
You've been listening to the Savannah Podcast. To find out more about Savannah, go to savannahspirit.com or follow Savannah on Facebook at facebook.com/Savannah Spirit. For daily inspiration, check out our blog at savannaeast.com. Be sure to join us next week for a new episode, and thank you for listening to the Savannah Podcast.